Have you ever heard the expression that both sides are the same? That none of it matters? That regardless of whether they're a Democrat or Republican, the result is the same? Of course you have. We all have. Whether you're a libtard or a Trump cuck, it doesn't matter. Both parties have been indistinguishable for the last 20 or 30 years. Or is that the case? The GROYPERS, or the GROYPER movement, says other. They believe this expression is not some sort of political commentator on both parties, but rather the result of conservatives simply not standing up for their values and allowing themselves to become progressive lights, which conveniently we have a word for, neocon. This is exactly what the GROYPERS are criticizing. Mainstream conservative talking heads for the last 20 or 30 years have stepped away from traditional values and allowed conservatism to become another brand of liberalism. The most poignant example the GROYPERS give is in 2012, gay marriage was legalized, and within 5 years, mainstream conservatism had fully accepted gay marriage into their ideology. And now we look at where the progressive marker is, and in 2017 it reached children in drag. So the question is simple. If in 2012 the conservatives opposed gay marriage and in 2017 they fully accepted gay marriage into their ideology, how long until mainstream conservatism fully accepts children in drag? Let's start at the beginning. On October 29, 2019, at a Turning Point USA event taking place at Ohio State University, the first GROYPER army appeared to sabotage Q&A by asking pointed questions of Turning Point USA founder Charlie Kirk. These questions specifically targeted his stance on immigration, Israel, and social conservatism.
I have a question. So from America First perspective, why do we give $3.8 billion to Israel, which is more aid than we've given to Africa, more aid than we've given to South America, and more aid than we've given to the Caribbean combined, which is home to 1 billion poor people, especially when they deliberately attacked the USS Liberty in the 1970s.
That is incorrect. Do not peddle conspiracy theories in our event. That is not acceptable. Do not say that.
Charlie, I speak for a not insignificant coalition of students in your organization that believes that your movement is utterly toothless. There was a young man, I think a week or two ago, that slapped you around pretty good on immigration. And so I guess my perspective is this. When we look at somewhere like Texas where immigrants are coming in and they are voting something like 70-30 for Democrats, they're utterly anti-gun. This is Pew Research, and utterly against free speech. I don't really think it matters how many young leadership, whatever conferences you hold. Demographics are going to catch up to you and you're going to lose. This is a culture where you're going to get robbed.
Establishment conservatives like yourself hold that national health care for Americans is too expensive, immoral, and doesn't work. Yet the U.S. gives Israel, Central America, Africa, and other regions billions in foreign aid. In particular, Israel received $3.8 billion to subsidize its immoral, expensive healthcare system, while Americans are made bankrupt by healthcare costs and pay a far higher effective tax rates than Israelis. My question, therefore, why would white Americans send their taxpayer dollars to fund Israel's healthcare while our mothers fight cancer, our brothers die of opioid overdoses, and the news of a coming baby brings not joy and happiness, but grave concern over thousands and thousands in future medical bills? How is that America first?
Thank you for being here tonight. So what is the foreign aid we give Israel spent on?
Bombs for blowing up children.
Many of his successes in regards to specific races, unemployment rate among blacks, small business ownership among Hispanics and Asians. At the same time, he not only avoids mentioning the main demographic that voted for him, white America, but continues to promote a progressive post-racial politic that suggests white voters should be grouped only by their political beliefs. As a white man attempting to move past identity politics, much like yourselves, I am wondering how realistic it is to expect other racial groups to stop banding together based on ethnicity and move forward as we have, especially when there is no pressure to assimilate to an American identity beyond that of having access to and consuming this.
Yes, this is our guy. This is our guy.
I will.
Shh, be quiet.
Somebody outside a protester was asking about the term culture war. It's got a long history, started late 1800s, Otto von Bismarck, Culture Kampf. In the late 1990s,
Rose, we got to cross.
It was reclaimed by conservatives. One of those being E. Michael Jones, who actually started this magazine.
Nice, nice, nice.
His fantastic work. We now understand. Thank you. Give it up.
Yes,
because
yes.
of E. Michael Jones' groundbreaking work, we now understand that sexual liberation is political control. It's a form of political control. And you have multiple times advocated on behalf of accepting homosexuality, accepting homosexual acts as normative in the conservative movement. How does anal sex help us win the culture war?
Yes!
I'm going to let
Question? My question is largely directed to Mr. Kirk because you were raised as a conservative. Part of the issue I see here is, what's your name, Rob?
Yeah.
So you're saying, oh, you're behind the times, this isn't conservative. Well, we don't want centrists in the conservative movement. We
Yes!
retain our
Yes!
values.
Yeah. Yes!
We don't want
Yes!
But here's the thing. It's not about what you want.
What
Yes!
is your brand of conservatism doing to actually conserve Christian morality?
Yes!
It's
Yes!
proceeding to the left on transgender,
Yes!
gay rights, gay marriage. We don't want that in conservative.
Yes!
First, let's put the immigration question into context. Charlie Kirk is on record for saying we should staple a green card to any college diploma, effectively circumventing any national immigration laws. This would have a disastrous effect because it would create a flood of new immigrants into the country. These immigrants, who vote primarily Democrat, would usher in a new age of politics where the native population would have zero control over their political destiny. In effect, Charlie Kirk would destroy any conservative movement within one generation. 21st century will be determined by demographics. We all understand this. This is as clear as day to anyone paying attention. Second, the questions about Israel. Now let's put these into context. First, the groypers don't care about Israel. They're nationalists who care about America. The reason they're asking about Israel is specifically because neocons like Charlie Kirk will not stop talking about them, will not stop praising them, and will not stop giving them money. Every single year, billions of American taxpayer money is sent to Israel for them to buy arms from us. Now, if it's simply a scam in order to move taxpayer money into the hands of gun manufacturers, fine, but it's representative of a larger systemic issue, and that is foreign aid. Why should America send billions of dollars around the world when it can't even provide for its own citizens? That doesn't make sense. This is why the groypers are asking about Israel. Because they're nationalists, because they want American money to stay in America. This isn't the 1950s anymore. America doesn't have such a step on everyone that they can play charity for the rest of the world. No, if we're going to be competitive in the 21st century, it will require some tough decisions, and that means cutting foreign aid and promoting America first. The third point is conservatism in general, and I believe it's the most significant point because it represents the first 2 points as well. What are mainstream conservatives really fighting for? What are they conserving? And I think that's the most important phrase. What have conservatives conserved? And the answer is nothing. The world that we have today, the culture that we have today, the society we have today is completely void of any sort of conservative ideology. Every single issue that the left has pushed for, that the progressives have pushed for the last 40 years, they have won on. So, the groypers ask a very simple question. What have the conservatives conserved? But let's take a step back. What does the movement really care about? Well, to understand what the movement really cares about, you have to understand who is involved. It's young people. This is primarily a youth movement. Young conservatives are looking around at the culture they're going to inherit, and they're rejecting it. They're realizing that this progressive ideology that has infected every single city and every single university and every single media and every single movie there is out there is rotten, that it's poisoning our minds and ensuring destruction of our communities, the destruction of our families, the destruction of our institutions, and the destruction of our relationships with one another. It's no wonder that loneliness and suicide are on the rise. People are checking out of this rotten society. This hedonism cannot continue. It will destroy the nation. In response to this modernity, the groypers have a simple answer. They wish to return to tradition. They want to build up the family, they want to build up the community, they want to build up the church. They want to reform real society, a real culture, and not some globalist muck where nothing means anything and no one is anybody. To do this, the groypers are specifically targeting what they believe to be neocons, so Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk, and people associated with them. Anyone who's under the brand of conservatism without actually being a conservative. And they will continue to show up to any public event and ask the same questions until they get an answer. But there won't be an answer. Because Turning Point USA, Charlie Kirk, and the rest of them all understand that these are pointed questions and they have value. It's not simply talking to talk. And so what they're doing now in response to this groyper movement is they've simply removed the Q&A. They're not allowing the groypers to ask the questions. They're simply trying to shut them out of the conversation and then hitting them with the same sort of the tactics that the left has used on conservatism in general for the last 10 years by calling them Nazis, by calling them racist, calling them every single pejorative they can, because if they smear them well enough, then they don't have to debate the idea. This is who the groypers are. They are rejecting modernity and returning to what made people happy and what made this country successful. If you're interested in getting involved, I would recommend Nick Funches, but more broadly, understand that you need to be the change you want to see in your culture. This means becoming competent at something. Become a pillar of your community. Go to church. Raise a family. Become someone that matters. Because if you're simply going to take the black pill, become a doomer, and check out society, then how can you complain about the culture you're inheriting if you refuse to fight for it? Thank you all for listening. Make sure to subscribe and comment below. I'd love to hear your opinions. Let's keep the fight going.